Ever freeze up when trying to calculate a tip or discount in your head? What if I told you that with just two simple tricks, you could calculate nearly any percentage mentally in seconds? Alright, let's start with the most fundamental skill you'll need, calculating 10%. Once you've got that down, you'll see how easily it builds into other percentages like 15, 25, 40, 50, and even 85%. At first, we'll start with some simple examples, and I'll show you exactly how to do the math in your head without writing anything down. Calculating 10%. The method is simple. We just need to move the decimal point one place to the left. For example, 10% of 48. Move the decimal one place left, that is 4.8. 10% of 8.6. Move the decimal one place left, that is 0.86. Easy? Now let's try to calculate 15%. To find 15%, first we will calculate 10%, then add half of that amount. For example, 10% of 48 is 4.8 and half of 4.8 is 2.4. Add them. 4.8 plus 2.4 equals 7.2. So 15% of 48 is 7.2. 10% of 8.6 is 0.86. Half of 0.86 is 0.43. Add them. 0.86 plus 0.43 equals 1.29. So 15% of 8.6 is 1.29. Now let's move on to 50%. To find 50%, we simply divide the number by 2. For example, 50% of 48. 48 divided by 2, that is 24. 50% of 8.6 is 8.6 divided by 2, that is 4.3. From this, we can calculate 25% by dividing the number in half twice. For example, 25% of 48. First half, 48 divided by 2 is 24. Second half, 24 divided by 2 is 12. So 25% of 48 is 12. 25% of 8.6. First half, 8.6 divided by 2 equals 4.3. Second half, 4.3 divided by 2 equals 2.15. 25% of 8.6 is 2.15. To find 75%, we add 50% and 25% together. Example, 75% of 48. 50% is 24, and 25% is 12, adding both equals 36. 75% of 8.6. 50% is 4.3, and 25% is 2.15, adding both equals 6.45. To calculate 60%, we combine 50% and 10%. Example, 60% of 48. 50% is 24, and 10% is 4.8, so adding both equals 28.8. 60% of 8.6. 50% is 4.3, and 10% is 0.86, adding both equals 5.16. For 40%, we calculate 50% and then subtract 10%. Examples: 40% of 48. 50% is 24, and 10% is 4.8. Subtracting, we get 9.6. 40% of 8.6 equals 50%. 4.3 and 10% is 0.86. Subtracting, we get 3.44. Now let's try 85%, which is the most complex example in this video. To get 85%, we subtract 15% from the original number, and we already know how to calculate 15%. Example, 10% of 48 is 4.8. Half of 4.8 is 2.4. 15% is 4.8 plus 2.4, that is 7.2. So 85% of 48 is 48, minus 7.2, that is 40.8. Similarly, 85% of 8.6 is 7.31. As you've seen, all of these percentage calculations, whether it's 15, 60, or even 85%, are just smart combinations of two simple steps: finding 10% and dividing numbers in half. Once you get comfortable with those, the rest becomes almost automatic. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Catch you in the next video.